Right, good morning, Edward. How are you today?
I'm all right, and you?
I'm great, thank you. What a beautiful sunny
Good.
day. Right,
Yes, it is. Hopefully it keeps on being sunny like this. Fingers crossed for the weekend.
I know. And thank you so much, Edward, for agreeing to be part of this interview process that I'm doing as a series over a couple of weeks with people looking at how the experience of lockdown and the regulations around COVID-19 have affected their personal, work, family lives, and also what benefits it's brought into their lives. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this, Edward, is because of my own experience, which earlier on really was very mentally and emotionally challenging for me. But it also brought me the space to address the mental and emotional blocks which were preventing me from moving forward in life. And in that whole process, I realized that there's hundreds of people in utter confusion and feeling under, bound in these feelings of pressure of to do something, but not knowing what to do, and also worried about going back to work, and some people not wanting to go back, and
Yeah.
also worried about what the future looks like, what that's gonna look like for them. But there's also these people, Edward, that have had the most amazing benefits out of this situation. And it's really opened up opportunities for self-development that they might not ordinarily have been able to explore had it not been for this extraordinary situation. So, Edward, I've known you through your 9:30 monthly business group. Yes,
Yes,
networking group. And
yes,
you also run a very successful HR solutions company called
yeah,
HR Hub Plus. And also, as we can see on your shirt, you also run Peridot Recruitment as well. So you're a
yeah.
very busy man. But I'm just wondering, Edward, if I can invite you to tell us a little bit about how this experience of lockdown and COVID has actually affected your work life.
I think thank you very much for inviting me to this event, and I really, really appreciate being given the opportunity. I think for us, it's sort of created an avenue for businesses to not only be creative but supportive at the same time. In terms of the organization that I'm part of, HR Plus and Peridot Recruit, it's therefore translated things from a physical face-to-face approach to a more virtual video platform approach. Now, previously, as part of the retainer service, we did contact clients over the phone, emails or video conferencing like this. But if they had on-site support, then obviously we'd have to go to their sites. But due to the public guidance and the COVID restrictions, we no longer were able to do that. So what we then did was to utilize the video conferencing abilities to therefore act as a substitute to that face-to-face connection. And it does act as a great substitute because, we interact with clients on a daily basis. We perform on-site roles that would normally have done face-to-face via the video conferencing platforms as well. So it's been a great and creative and interesting journey for businesses, including mine.
Yeah, I know it's been amazing for everybody, and I know we've had to adjust how we interact with people. And I'm wondering actually, how has that, you were talking about it's been translated onto a video conferencing. Has that made much difference to how people have interacted with you, to the outcomes of things in your business? Has it made any difference to that? And
I
relationships?
think I think in terms of relationships, I think it sustains the relationships that we've had because we now have an opportunity to interact visually as we are doing through this interview as well. So, it sustained the relationships, the existing relationships, and it's also provided an opportunity for us to build other relationships with our top clients who, because of this COVID situation, also needed some sort of support and guidance. Now, some ad hoc clients that we had over the period of this COVID-19, while some of them would have preferred a telephone call or an email, but because it's all about building relationships, trying to relate with those who we come in contact with, it was some sort of an interesting transition for some of them to adapt to the video conferencing platforms. And I think, as well as everyone knows, people by people, it's always good to see and interact visually with who you're having some sort of an engagement with. And, it's worked out fine. For some, it was a transition to trying to put on the video. They would prefer the audio, but, it's all about warming their way through it. And, it's always good, to interact with the person visually like this, instead of one platform's got the video on and the other one doesn't. So, it's all about engaging and transitioning with everyone that we come across. And, almost 90% of them have adapted to the video conferencing platform. The rest would rather, emails and telephone calls.
Yeah, so there's always going to be these people who are always going to be a little bit more reticent about it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it, Edward? Because it's about the strange. There's a strange boundary, right? But also is breaking down boundaries. So there's this really weird kind of, I don't know, push-pull where we have an invisible boundary, but it's actually helping to break down boundaries in another way, and I should say bringing other ad hoc clients maybe that you might not ordinarily have maybe had the chance to engage with. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think, because almost every organization needed some sort of support and guidance during this interesting period that we're actually facing. So yes, it would have been a situation whereby normally there would have been some sort of connection because some organizations were a bit more comfortable with the way they were operating. But obviously, with this coming to light and knowing that, it had to be bound by employment law and contractual obligations, with the government advice always reiterating the need for businesses to seek some sort of professional advice and guidance at the same time, then it was all about reaching out to organizations that have been visible within the community, and we've maintained some sort of visibility, consistent visibility. So when our top clients needed something, it was about, oh yeah, what was the name of that company that I saw on Facebook the other day, or LinkedIn, or on Twitter, or on Instagram, and then they just reached out.
Yeah. So there's been some quite amazing benefits there for you, isn't there, Edward?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's great. And I'm wondering in all of this, because I know that you're such a family man and you're always engaged with your children, and how's this affected your family life for you?
I think in terms of the family life, obviously, it's a situation of both parents supporting the children as much as they can. And, it's brought into the fore because, the children were off school. They had to have some sort of continuous, development while they were, albeit on holidays. So it was all about supporting through that mechanism to ensure that the kids, focus on what's important and also find time out to, relax and engage. Of course, engaging with their friends was limited, but, engagement as much as it can indoors and maybe outdoors, maintaining public guidance, social distancing in terms of maybe going for walks, exercises or engaging with them in their normal games. So yeah, it was a challenge because it was, how can I put it? It was something that wasn't planned for when 2020 came into being. But you know, like everything, it's all about adapting. It's all about making sure that the kids understand that this is not a holiday situation. It's still some sort of academic at home situation, and then trying to move along and obviously get their buy-in as well. Because, you know, kids, just like, you know, I've got friends around who've got kids as well. They thought, oh, you know, this is a time for us to play video games from morning till night. So when you then integrate the study aspect, you know, the question would be, but I thought we were on holidays and something's like, no, you're not on holidays. You still have to study. You still have to submit school reports. And we're here to make sure that you consistently do what you need to do. So yeah, it was, you know, fun and games, but, you know, interesting as well. Because, you know, you could see my kids are, you know, 11, 9, and 5. So, you know, trying to convince them that this is the way to go was interesting. But at the end of the day, yes, you know, it was
Yeah.
successful as well.
Oh yes, yeah, I know, 11, 9, and 5. So that would be very interesting to negotiate.
Yes, yes.
You know, yes, how to stick to the school rules when they're like, well, I'm at home, isn't this great? You know, yes. So yes, I can imagine that would have been really interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, but you've managed. So you've managed that. Have you managed that? Have you found that that's been okay then? Have you managed that well? How have that, or have they? I wondered actually for you, Edward, because I've spoken to a couple of other parents who have had quite well, it's been difficult kind of getting keeping that education going for their kids. Do you know what I mean? Keeping that momentum, and they found that the real motivation has just dived. And I suppose it depends what age. I'm just wondering what it's been like for your children, what that motivation levels, how that's affected your children.
Yeah, I think, you know, like everything, you know, there'll be some sort of, you know, resistance to the rule in their own little way. But it's all about trying to get their buy-in into what you're actually trying to do. Because, you know, it's a situation whereby, you know, normally they would be at school from 9 till 3. But now it's like they're at home every day of the week, 7 days out of 7. So yeah, initially it was challenging because you know, they woke up with a routine of, you know, in quote, video games for life, or, you know, TikTok or whatever the new video platforms that are on at the moment in terms of kids. But then it's all about making sure that, look, you know, irrespective of the situation we find ourselves in, from 9 till 3, we still have to treat it as some sort of academic day. Of course, you know, it wouldn't be full on as it would normally be if they were at school, but there was some sort of element of consistency and approach. And yes, you know, there was some minor resistance as one would expect, but, you know, gradually they got used to it and just adapted to it. And, you
Oh,
know, the
that's
good thing
great.
is that their schools are going back in August, fingers crossed. So we'll see how that goes.
That's great, Edward. That sounds like you've got a really good routine there. Well done. You can give some tips to other parents, I think. Yes, so this is that's it sounds like it's really brought some you know it sounds like there's been a nice balance. I know it's been quite difficult, but it sounds like you found quite a nice balance there in all the chaos. So that's really great, Edward.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
but I'm also wondering for you, what do you see? How do you see this moving forward? Have you seen have you seen changes in the workplace? You know, have you seen things? How do you see this all going forwards for companies in your experience?
I think for companies, there's going to be a lot of flexibility moving forward for those who can work at home. They can, in terms of reduction of hours, working hours for employees, variation of terms and conditions, because, this is the new normal. It's not as it was pre-March or pre-lockdown. Because right now there's a lot of things organizations will need to take into consideration. The operational capacity, the income they're generating, the overheads that they have within businesses. They'll take quite a look at it and try and adapt as much as they can. I've always advised clients, especially those, whether they're on retained or ad hoc, to make sure that, they communicate accordingly with their staff so that they're aware of what these changes are, so that it won't come out as a surprise eventually. And, by communicating with your staff, you're being open, you're being honest, and they will appreciate that more. No employee at this point in time would have the notion that things will be the same. And nothing will be the same. There'll be a lot of investment in training, in support, making sure the workplace is, COVID secure. There are a lot of risk assessments that will be in place, depending on the organizational structure and size of the office, that 2-meter spacing or 1-meter spacing, as the case may be. So they will have to apply a lot of all these things, and they will have to take it into consideration as well. So there will be a lot of changes, but one of the key things is to make sure that, they'll be more supportive of their employees. Mental health will be a big outcome in this, and, it's all about providing that relevant support as much as you can, because we've all heard in the news, we've all seen redundancies, and, that will impact on families. So, the alternative to redundancies will be certain other processes that organizations will give due consideration.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great. That's really great advice. How you summed that up really well, Edward. There is it's the new normal. I don't think it's normal. What when people say the new normal, I'm not really sure what normal is, and no. But yeah, we're going to have to really adapt to these changes over we don't know for how long. So, and it really is kind of changing people's habits and their perceptions of how we engage with each other, isn't it? It is. You can see that thinking there. But it's all going to be good. It kind of teaches us how to adapt in different ways, doesn't it? It kind of gets us out of, we get into this mindset, don't we? We get into this habitual way of working, and this has kind of helped us open up a different way of interacting and engaging with people and with business, hasn't it? So, and each other, and in our personal lives as well. So thank you so much for that, Edward. That was really great. That was really great. And I'm wondering, is there any other advice or anything that you want to offer to people? Any other insights or anything that you want to say for people in this situation?
Yeah, I think we're in situations that we didn't envisage from the word go. It's all about being supportive, being kind, being compassionate, and have some sort of understanding. And especially organizations, there needs to be that more flexibility, that more support. If you've got line managers who are managing employees directly, make sure they're fully trained, make sure that, they interact appropriately with their staff, and, support them as much as you can, because we are all in this together, whether you're an employer, whether you're an employee, whether your personal life, business life. It's all about coming together to support each other as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely, Edward. It totally is. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the only way we can actually go ahead, isn't it? Forward, go
exactly.
move forward is just doing whatever we can to help each other and just be understanding. I know about what we're all going through. So thank you so much, Edward. That was absolutely wonderful, and I hope you have a lovely day, whatever you're going to be doing. It's lovely weather, and I shall see you again at one of your networking events.
Exactly. Thank you very much for
Thank
giving me
you.
this opportunity as well.
Thank you, Edward.
All
Okay.
right. Thank
Bye for
you.
now. Bye.
Bye.